Good morning. Thank you all. Well, if you don't know me, my name is Sarah, and I am a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I'm so glad to be here tonight to share with you guys a word that I got from God on steps 6 and 7. And so I first started coming to recovery because somebody told me if I had any hurts, habits, or hang-ups to show up here, and so I did, and I figured out what they were, so it was great. I'm so glad I came. We're going to talk. So this sermon series we're on, so through all of June and July, we're going to be doing a series called True Freedom. And so I love that we just sang these worship songs that talked about the freedom from our fear, the freedom from all the things that are holding us back, and that we get to experience hope and joy and love and happiness and peace and all of these things, because that's actually what we're talking about all month long. And so I'm so excited about that. And tonight we're going to start by talking about character defects. Who likes them? You all do. So first I'm going to read you guys steps 6 and 7 so that we can all start from the same place. So step 6 says, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. And step 7 says, we humbly asked him to remove all our shortcomings. And for this sermon series, we're going to be talking about the verse of Galatians 5:1, which is, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. And so our hope for this series is that you will be able to be set free from your character defects and start to live into your purpose that God has made for you. And that by the end of the series, you'll be able to name your character defects, get rid of them, and start living in freedom. Does that sound good? All right, well, let me pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this opportunity to share your word. It's just so wonderful just to see the ways that you show up and the way that you carry the big stones for us. That when we ask you to move mountains, that you actually move mountains. And so thank you for the healing that you've brought to my life, and thank you for the healing that you're going to do in my friends. In Jesus' name, amen. And so in Galatians 5:1, it talks about freedom and slavery. And so I want to tell you guys a funny story about my slavery that I'm in today. I say funny because it involves my children. So if you don't know me, I've got 2 children under the age of 2 whom I love dearly, but I am enslaved to them all night and all day and all night and all day, and I'm getting no sleep. It's wonderful. I didn't cut my hair, I pulled it out. I'm just kidding. So, but even like today, I'm trying to take a shower. I've got one kid in the shower, the other one climbing up the shower curtain, screaming, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." My son sleep talks, and what does he say in his sleep? Mommy. I'm like, kid, you're asleep. I had a friend tell me I'm just the woman of his dreams. It's a wonderful way to look at it. But I feel enslaved by these kids. I don't get to sleep. I don't get to eat by myself. Literally, every single time I make myself breakfast, I go to sit down, and my son goes, "Oh, KJ cereal." No, this is mommy cereal. No, KJ cereal. All right, now it's KJ cereal. So my mom is my witness. Every single time my bowl gets taken. It's wonderful. So even though that's a funny story about slavery and how I feel enslaved to them because they keep me grounded right here, can't go anywhere, we also put on chains of slavery that we put on ourselves, and those are our character defects. And these are things that we thought were going to serve us a purpose, that we thought were going to be helpful, that we still think are going to be helpful or might be helpful someday, but they actually enslave us. And so through these steps of step 6 and 7, we want to break free from those chains that we put on ourselves, because we can't start to be free from them until we actually know what they are. And so the way the steps are made out is that you start with the foundation of who our higher power is, Jesus Christ, here at Community of Hope and the Celebrate Recovery. And then we go into the cleaning up the house. So this is part of those. We have to clean up the house so that then we can move into a freer, better life. Because that is what brought me in the door of recovery, is I wanted freedom and I wanted a better life than the life that I had been living. So, what does freedom look like? So, what helps me think about freedom is first to go to the opposite of slavery and enslavement. And so, I think of, for me with my character defects, the enslavement I feel when I'm just so anxious or so angry that my heart is pounding, I'm shaking, I can't think about anything else. I just am completely stuck there. And no matter how much I want to stop being anxious or stop raging or stop screaming or stop crying or whatever it is, I can't. I'm stuck. And it's not just a stuck like that I feel like I can get out of. It's a I feel trapped. I feel like I can't move my feet anywhere and I'm just all consumed with these things. So that enslavement feels horrible. And I know we have all felt something in our lives where we want to break free and we go, oh, I want it gone, but I can't get it off and I don't know how. And so the freedom side is we don't feel that way. We feel light. We feel like we can breathe. We feel like we can walk into a room of strangers and not be shaking. We feel like we can be at peace and that we're not hurried and rushed on to the next thing, but we actually get to live in serenity. Doesn't that sound good? Yeah. And that's why we want to do these steps. That's why we want to do the work, because we want the gift of freedom. And so when we're being set free, we want to be set free from the things of our past. We want to move closer to the fruits of the Spirit. I know we talked about this in church a couple weeks ago about what the fruits of the Spirit were, and some of you all know them. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Tell me who gets cut off on the road and has self-control in this room. Thank you. But we want to move there. I also did not raise my hand, full honesty. So, but we want to move there. We want to move to these places of peace. And so we are seeking that serenity and that peace. And another thing that I love that helps me outline what freedom looks like or what I'm seeking is the 9th step promises of AA. So they'll be on the screen for you all as well. And I'm going to read them. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past or wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurities will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. So do the work. So when I remember when I first went into an AA meeting and they read these promises, and they did it at every meeting. So it didn't matter if I was at step 1, day 1, step 12. I got to be reminded of these promises, that there is a reason why I keep coming back. There's a reason to do the work because I get to experience this. I know when I first came in, I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything. I'd been homeless, all these things. And so when it said, I will no longer have a fear of economic insecurity, boy, did I want that. That's what I was holding on to. I wanted to know that my bills were going to be paid, I was going to have a roof over my head, and I wasn't going to be hungry. And so when this said I could get that by coming back and working a program, that's what I did. And then when it said in here, it said so many times about selfishness and self-seeking. And I kind of laughed because there's an irony in the program. It's a selfish program. We do it for ourselves. But then when we do it, we lose our self-seeking behavior. Isn't that funny? We start it for ourselves, but then we lose that. Isn't that crazy? So what I love is that I get to do this for me. The reason I kept coming back, it wasn't to do it for anyone else. It wasn't to put on a facade for my family. It wasn't to pretend I had it all together. It was because I actually need healing and fullness and freedom in my life. But then at the end of it, I get to see, wait, I have a bigger purpose. And so there's something I actually read today, and it said that if the reason I came to recovery was just to be set free from my past, that's not what's going to keep me coming back. It's the hope for a better future. And so that's what kept me coming back, is knowing there is a future. I have a purpose in this world. And the purpose is not just to have a roof over my head and not go hungry. God actually created me to do something in this world. And so when we get to have freedom, it's not just freedom for ourselves, but it's a freedom to actually live into our God-given purpose in life instead of being held down and pulled back by all of our character defects. And so if you're hearing me say character defects and you're like, what the heck is that, Sarah? Please tell me what a character defect is. I will. All right. So the way my sponsor helped, my first sponsor when I started these steps, I had a few sponsors. Ask me about it later. So I had one sponsor that I started with this step and a different one to finish. The first one told me about the 7 deadly sins. So if I don't know what any of my character defects are, I can't label them. I don't know what they're called, so I can't fix them. I can't give them to God because I can't call them anything. Start with the 7 deadly sins. Some of us know them: lust, gluttony, all those things. We don't have to say them all. They're terrible. We don't want them. Another thing my sponsor taught me, which is super helpful, and this was the thing that really gave me a lot of healing, was literally going in Google and searching lists of character defects. Who knew? They're on there. And being able to read through and say, yes, I do this. Yes, I do that. No, I don't do that. And then I get to celebrate. My sponsor and I celebrated, yay, I don't do that. Yay, today. I might have done it in the past. Like there's one, lust. I had a porn addiction from the age of 5 that I was not set free from until I came into this program. And so lust, I struggled with a lot. It was my major one. But then by working my program, it was no longer a character defect I had. Even by the time I got to this step, God had already begun to start setting me free. And then, let's see, in here. So Googling helps. Another one was reading through my fears list. So if you've done step 4 with your sponsor, you have a list of fears. And when I looked back at my fears, and it gave me, and I thought of reactions that I've had to those fears, that reaction was usually my character defect. There's also a great book out there called Drop the Rock. Any of us heard it? Any of us read it? Yeah. If you have not, Hoopla has an audio version, so you can listen to it in the car. Hey. Or you can buy it. It's like $4. It's really cheap. Love that book. I love the stories in it. I love how it gives a personal reference for what it was like for anger, for lust, for all these different things. It was super helpful for me. And then my last thing of helping find them was reading the Bible. Because I thought of every time I read the Bible and I saw these things that they're saying, don't do this, don't do that, this is going to lead to a terrible life. I was probably doing those. And that thing could be my character defect. And so these are always, not always, but these were things for me that helped me escape the pain that I didn't want to feel, or to escape consequences that I didn't want to have, like lying. I would lie because I didn't want to have a consequence. If I was honest, then I'd be punished. But I thought if I lied and I covered it up, I wouldn't be punished. But really, my character defect just led to more problems. So it's also something that my character defect lies to me. My character defect says, you need me. With me, you're going to have a better life. You're going to have a fuller life. And so I took it. I said, great, I'll take you. And then come to find out, it was with a catch, that it's going to cost me something. It's going to cost me relationships. It's going to cost me friendships. It's going to cost me jobs. It's going to cost me my serenity. And guys, that's what I came here for, was some serenity. I did not want to lose my serenity anymore. Sorry. So also character defects can be things that you're not doing. Sorry. That you should be doing. So this is something where my sponsor pointed out, Am I calling my sponsor? Am I journaling? Am I actually doing my step work? Am I listening to that little small voice in the back of my head saying, hey, you should call that person. Hey, you should go hold the door. Hey, go help that person with their groceries. When I'm not doing those things, it's usually because I've got some kind of fear standing in the way. And then my not doing that is also a character defect because I'm not following through on what my purpose in life is. Because if I'm asked to do something, it's for a reason. And when I'm not doing it, I'm only holding myself back. So these are all things we can help find our character defects. And another thing I like to think of with the character defects is these are things that because they used to serve us a purpose, we think we need to hold on to them, but we don't. And I was telling somebody today, I said, it's like you're when you go out to eat and you've got leftovers and you put it in the to-go box and you bring it home and then you eat your leftovers, but then you hold on to the box and then you just let it sit on your table. Then you forget about it. And then the bugs start flying in it. And then it starts festering. It gets really gross. And there's maggots. I had maggots in my laundry today, so I'm like really maggoted out today. I'm just outdoor laundry. Don't do it. Florida, bad. But like that's what happens when we first had something that served us a purpose, but then we keep holding on to it for too long, and now it's causing us more harm. Now I got maggots. Now I got to get rid of them. It's gross. So a list of character defects to help you. If you don't want to go to Google just yet because you're in here and you're paying attention, good job. Here is my list of character defects that I am still working on. So get a little snippet of my life. Here it is. But these character defects, sometimes they change over time. I know when I first went through it, they looked one way. Then I started working on some, and then some morphed, some changed. I replaced some character defects with other character defects instead of just getting set free from all of them. And so this is going to be a process. This is not going to happen overnight. We're not just going to name our character defect, get rid of it, and we're free for eternity. It's going to be a process and where we have to give it to God because we can't do it on our own. And so I'm going to give you a practical way of how I work through one of these. So pride, down there on the bottom, that is the last one that I worked on a few months ago now, where I was losing my mind. I had no serenity, no peace, just was going crazy because you guys are going to laugh. It's terrible. This is me being very vulnerable. So I got a job change at work, and so I asked for my previous position to be taken instead of me continuing to do 2 jobs. And they were gracious enough to hire somebody. And my pride said, because it lies to me, you're so bad at your job, they have to replace you. What? I literally asked to be replaced so that I wasn't working 2 jobs. But my pride was telling me, no, you're bad. You're not good at this. You need recognition. You need people to say how good you are at your job, and you're so bad that they're telling somebody else she's good at your job. And it was just this, I was going crazy in my head. And so the spinning that was going on, the lies that I was telling myself, that pride was telling me that I was believing. And so my pride also says, because they didn't thank you on your way out, that you did a terrible job the whole time you were there. All a lie. None of that's true. I did a good job. Just kidding. I do not need, this is my pride, guys. Don't feed my pride, okay? So what my sponsor has taught me to do is when I go into these places where my character defect is enraged, it's just fueling, it's going crazy, the first thing I do is I feel my feelings. If I just push it aside, if I just say it's not there, then I'm not working on it. I'm instead going to make myself sick. I'm not going to get any healing. The next thing I do is I ask God to help me name it. In the moment, I didn't know it was my pride that was rearing its ugly head. I just knew something was wrong. I'm really angry. What is it? And so I asked God, please reveal to me what the character defect is that I need to work on. And then my sponsor, somebody chuckled at this last week. My sponsor told me to find every single Bible verse that talks about that character defect and write every single one out. Now, if you go in there, there's a lot on pride. There's a lot on a lot of these character defects. But what helps me in those moments when I'm writing it out is I'm getting disgusted with the pride. I'm not getting disgusted with myself. I'm getting disgusted with this character defect that thinks that I need it. Because I don't. I don't need it, and I don't need these chains, and I don't need to keep being brought back down because that's not it. It's not a competition at all. I'm not in a competition, but my pride tells me that I am. Then, at the end of writing all of those things out, I have a column right next to it that says, am I willing and ready to surrender it? And guys, there are some I'm not ready to surrender. Pride in that moment, I was ready to surrender. It was taking too much of my peace, too much of my serenity, and too much of my time. I was literally at work doing this step work to get to work because I was so crazy that I couldn't get my job done. That's crazy. And so that's how this program helps me, because I got to sit down and I was so grateful. My job lets me do it. My boss actually thanked me for working my program that day. So it worked out. But I was ready, and I said, yes, I'm ready. Next column says, then what's my plan? What is my plan of action so that I don't keep going back to pride? How am I going to replace it? How am I going to do something differently so that I don't keep going back to that? And what is the lie that I'm believing so that I can say, nope, that's a lie from the devil. I'm not accepting it. Because we're also taught we take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. So if I know it's lying to me, it's saying that I'm a worthless person, I'm garbage, and it's feeding me all of the fears I've ever felt in my life, then I know it's lying to me. This is not helping me. I don't need this. And so I write out a plan. What am I going to do differently? And so instead, I was intentionally going to give her compliments, going to tell her how great she is at doing my job, and get to know her and champion her as a person, and know that I am there to support her. She's there to support me, and we are in this together. We are not competing, because my pride tells me that I am, and I'm not. But if I don't plan, then I plan to fail. Was it failure to plan, planning to fail? And then the last part of my thing is I pray. And guys, when I'm praying, I'm sitting there, I'm bawling my eyes out, just thanking God, because I had so much peace and serenity at the end of that process of being able to truly let go of that character defect that I didn't have to hold on to it anymore. And it felt so wonderful. And I was like, I want to do this with all of my character defects. But it doesn't happen like that overnight. But I was really grateful for the freedom from that one. And so if you're sitting here tonight and you're going, well, what do I do about it right now? What is my next thing that I do? The first one is you can identify what your defects are. You can start going through that, but don't do it alone. This is a we program. So include your sponsor, include your accountability, include that you're safe people who are going to be there by your side, because I promise you, if I tried to do it by myself, I was just going to beat myself up with all of my bad labels that I was going to give myself, instead of realizing I'm labeling the defects. I'm not labeling myself. The next is praying. Pray. Ask God to reveal those character defects for you, especially if you're on these steps and you don't know what to write down. Ask God to show you, like I did. God, why am I freaking out? And he told me, because of my pride. And so ask him, have him show you. And also in step 6 and 7, it both says, both steps say, one says we have God remove these defects of character, and the other one is we ask him to remove our shortcomings. We can't do it alone. We can't do it without God. So if we're not including God, it's not going to get done. If you try to white knuckle recovery by yourself without God, it's going to be miserable. And that'll be a character defect. You can write that one down. There you go. And the last one is keep coming back, because we're going to be doing this sermon series through all of June and July. So we've got lots of tools and things that you get to take home to help you start to taste some true freedom in your life, in your recovery, and in your family. Thank you for letting me share.